Hey there, welcome back to Pepper Geek. Today we're going to talk about our favorite pepper varieties of 2022. So with the end of the year quickly approaching, we decided to go through our favorite pepper varieties that we have grown this year.
We grew a lot of peppers as usual, something like 40 or 50 different varieties, and so we're going to go through some of our favorites from this year.
Yeah, we did a similar video to this last year. It was a lot of fun, and it's a nice little way to round up our favorite varieties and kind of get excited for the growing season next year.
So we're going to talk about 8 of our favorite peppers from this season. We'll also touch on 3 disappointments from the year, and also 3 or maybe a few more peppers we're excited to grow next year. So the first pepper on this list are the New Mexico chilies. We actually grew 3 different varieties of New Mexico chili peppers this year. The New Mex Big Jim, Miss Junie, and the New Mex Heritage 6-4, all of which are known collectively as Hatch chilies. There are tons of different Hatch chili pepper varieties, which are traditionally grown in the Hatch Valley of New Mexico. This was our first year growing Hatch chilies, and the flavor is just unbelievable. They're so good, fresh, picked green before they ripen, but there are just so many things you can do with them. You can roast them and peel them, and you can make sauces with them. They range from mild to pretty hot, and it's just a really nice versatile pepper plant.
We were also really happy with the fact that these plants were super huge and bushy and very productive. We got a ton of peppers off of them, which was great.
So productive, in fact, that they became really top heavy and most of them fell over out in the field. We would definitely recommend using a cage of some sort to support them if you want to grow them yourself.
So next up on one of our favorite pepper varieties that we grew this year is the Jimmy Nardello. It's always great to have a nice mix of spicy peppers and sweet peppers, and the Jimmy Nardello really came through for us. This was a delicious, fast-growing pepper plant that produced just really tasty sweet peppers that are very versatile in the kitchen. You can use them for stir fries or pastas, and we are so happy we grew it. We're definitely going to be doing more next year.
Yeah, they kind of look like a long, hot chili pepper, but they were totally sweet, no heat to them at all. And there's a cool backstory about the Jimmy Nardello. It came here from Italy, and they actually settled in Connecticut, where we're from, and so it's kind of no wonder that the plant does so well here in our climate.
Yeah, it was fate that we grew it, right?
Yeah, I think we'll grow it again. And our dog liked it too.
That's true. It was one of Sadie's favorite peppers this year.
Next up is the Ninfadora pepper. This is a very cool new addition to the Capsicum chinense species, at least as far as we know. It has variegated foliage and tiny little berries that sort of have stripes to them when they're unripe, and they ripen to a red color.
Yeah, you know, I'm a little skeptical that the reason you like this plant so much is just because of Ninfadora.
I like Ninfadora, yeah.
Maybe that's why. Yeah, I think out of all of the plants we grew, the variegation on this one was definitely the most unique and most interesting.
Yeah, it has sort of splotches of yellow and green, so it sort of looks like a lime green plant. Really stands out against darker foliage varieties that we had nearby, so definitely want to grow it again.
So next up for our favorite peppers is the Cayennetta. If you watched one of our more recent videos, we grew and tried 7 different cayenne peppers, and the Cayennetta definitely came in at the top. So this plant grew, it was pretty small and bushy, but it was incredibly productive, and the peppers themselves are just, the flavor is unmatched to any cayenne pepper.
There was something special about the flavor of these. I kind of wanted to like other varieties more just for the longer peppers.
Yeah.
But they were shorter but uniform in flavor and heat, and yeah, the productivity was wild.
So the Cayennetta is perfect for hot sauces or powders. We actually have a ferment in the fridge. We're gonna make some cayenne hot sauce with that. Definitely gonna be growing this cayenne pepper next year as well. Maybe not some of the other ones, but this is a keeper.
Next up is the Kingstar Peach Starkist. This is the cousin to the Kingstar Lemon Starburst, which is probably the most famous variety created by Kingstar. But the Peach Starkist just had this beautiful color and shape to it, just very picturesque and citrusy in aroma and flavor, so very versatile. The only drawback was we didn't get very many peppers off of the plant, but the plant itself was beautiful and the peppers were gorgeous.
Yeah, another great pepper if you want to make some nice looking sauces too. So our next favorite pepper variety that we grew this year was the Quintisho pepper. So this pepper actually made an appearance in a lot of our videos in the background, and a lot of you guys commented, "Oh, I love your Ahicharapita plant." However, it was actually the Quintisho plant. This was a great, sturdy plant that we're actually trying to bonsai over the winter because we liked it so much. And it was very, very productive. It made tons of pods, and the flavor was really good. We made a few batches of hot sauce with them, and it was really delicious.
I was actually pretty impressed before it even got outdoors. The plant was just so sturdy, and it had this dark foliage that really stood out against other peppers that we were growing. So I sort of knew from the start that it was going to be a really impressive plant.
Definitely a very strong, resilient plant that produced a lot of pods. Not sure if we'll grow it next year, but it was one of our favorites.
Next up, we have 2 jalapeno varieties that we really liked. We made another similar video about our favorite jalapeno varieties. We grew 8 different varieties this year and sort of picked our favorites. And at the top, for me at least, was the Goliath jalapeno, and I think that was your second favorite.
Yeah.
So we both agreed that the Goliath was a really impressive plant, just very big with lots of peppers, big peppers as well, and very little disease or pest issues. So it's just kind of a winner in the garden and a really easy way to get a lot of jalapenos.
And the other jalapeno we really liked this year was the Numex Lemon Spice, which had a great flavor. However, it did have a lot of pest issues. The pods themselves were pretty small, but they had great flavor and a very respectable amount of heat for a jalapeno. Beautiful color, really great flavor. I don't know that we'll grow it again because of all the pest issues we had. We might want to experiment with some other jalapeno peppers, but...
And the last of our favorite peppers was the candy cane striped pepper. This is sort of a small bell-shaped pepper with variegation on the foliage and stripes on the unripe peppers. Eventually they do ripen through to red, and they do just taste pretty much like a red bell pepper, but there's really nothing like the look of them in the garden.
Yeah, and one great thing about growing these is that they are sweet peppers, so you can give them away to your family and friends, and they just look really cool.
It would be cool to see like a full-size bell pepper with stripes on it like this, but maybe one day we'll get there.
Yeah, it's like a mini bell.
You could stuff it.
You could stuff it.
Sadie
mini...
liked those too.
Yeah.
She liked the little sweet red bells.
We're finding that our dog has a very good taste for peppers, and she's pretty good at weeding out the varieties that aren't so great.
That's the perfect segue to the next segment, which is some of our disappointments this year. So let's start with the Pippin's Golden Honey Pepper. Sounds delicious, right? And it has a very interesting history to it. And it's a pretty cool looking plant with these sort of skinny and long sweet peppers that ripen to an orange color. But at least in our case, they ended up having really tough skin, so they really weren't good to eat fresh. You couldn't just chomp into one like some of the other sweet peppers we talked about. And even Sadie didn't really seem to approve.
Yeah, it is worth noting our dog did not like these peppers. And you know, I tried stir frying them and they still didn't really soften up enough. I don't know, they just didn't taste great, so it's kind of a bummer.
Maybe if you roasted and peeled them, but I just don't think it's worth it for such a small pepper, the amount of work you'd have to put in to do that, so we won't grow that one again.
And if you've had any experiences that differ from our disappointments, please leave a comment and let us know. It might be interesting to hear that you love the Pippin's Gold. So next up on our disappointments for peppers is the Rocoto Giant Red. We've had a little bit of a history with Rocoto peppers. Last year we didn't have much luck with them at all. They were just so difficult. And while it is a really tasty pepper, it only produced a few pods, so it was just very difficult and kind of a bummer. But I think we're gonna try again next year with a different Rocoto variety.
I think this year the climate really just didn't match up with what's required for growing Rocoto peppers. They come from sort of a mountainous region. They like the weather a little cooler. They don't like the heat, and this year for us it was very hot and dry, and so that's really just a recipe for a failure in the Rocoto department. But again, we were able to taste a few. They were delicious, really interesting plants, and we'll definitely try again.
I mean, we even catered to this pepper in the pot. We had it in the shade a little bit underneath the tree. We tried really hard to help it thrive and still just didn't have much luck.
There's always next year.
There's always next year.
And lastly, the Yesil Tatli pepper. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I believe this is a Turkish pepper variety that's typically used to make powders. You dry it out and make sort of paprika powder. The plant was just very small and scraggly, and I tasted a few peppers and none of them tasted very good, so.
Yeah, I was really excited about it at the beginning of the season. It's too bad that it didn't do well and it just didn't taste great either. And now for the fun part, we get to talk about all the things that we're excited about growing for next year. And of course, we have a pretty long list going, so this is just a few different things that we've been talking about, and we can't wait to share them with you over the course of the year.
First up, our bell peppers. We've already purchased a bunch of new seeds for different bell pepper varieties, and specifically we're going to try to grow some that are disease resistant, because this year we grew a couple of different types that are heirlooms, and all of them seem to come down with some form of disease.
Yeah, so similar to how we narrowed down our favorite jalapeno and cayenne varieties, next year we want to work on bell peppers, and it'll be a great way to kind of figure out exactly what our favorite bell pepper is, and it's going to be a lot easier to offload some of these peppers to our family, friends, and neighbors, because most people like bell peppers, not everybody likes super hot peppers, so it's going to be great.
I also looked a little bit into how commercially grown bell peppers are grown, and it's really unique and interesting. So over the winter, I'll actually be experimenting in the basement with sort of trellising bell peppers vertically instead of letting them bush out. So look forward to something about that soon.
We're also really excited to be growing the Goronong pepper, which I may be pronouncing incorrectly, but it is a rare habanero type from Malaysia, and it has a crazy looking shape and apparently a very good flavor.
And lastly, we mentioned the Ninfadora pepper in some of our favorites from this year, and I'm really excited to grow some of the new crosses that have been developed over the last season by other growers and crossbreeders. We have a few seed varieties crossing the Ninfadora with other capsicum chinense varieties, so I'll be really interested to see some other variegated chinense species peppers next year.
So that's all for our favorite pepper varieties of 2022. Leave a comment below with some of your favorite varieties that you grew. We would love to check them out and possibly add them to our own garden.
Thanks for watching Pepper Geek, and we'll see you next time.